皆様本日ご参加ありがとうございます。今、準備中ですので、もう少々このままお待ちください。もうすぐ始まります。それでは、お時間になりましたので、始めさせていただきます。SIUK 東京オフィスのトウと申します。本日は皆様ご参加ありがとうございます。今日はエセックス大学から経済学の専門家であるベン・エスリッジ先生と、あと担当官であるエドモンドさんをお招きして、修士課程の経済学のコースについてお話しいただきます。コースの、テイスターという形で少し体験セッションもあって、で、あと、大学全体に関してもご紹介させていただきます。そして最後に、Q&A のお時間がございますので、ぜひ、せっかくの機会ですので、チャットボックスなどを通じてお気軽に、大学のことについてでも、コースについてでも、ぜひお気軽にご質問ください。それでは、始めさせていただきます。Now, I'm very pleased to welcome Dr. Etheridge and Edmund from the University of Essex. Today, Dr. Etheridge will be talking about the Masters in Economics. So thank you very much for joining from very early in the morning. And now I'd like to hand it over to you, Dr. Etheridge.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll just share my screen. Okay, and is that shared? Hang on, I will make full screen. Okay, is that okay? Great. Okay, so welcome to all.
Sorry, Ben, we cannot see your screen.
Oh, okay, apologies. Okay. So is that, can you see my screen now?
Yeah, I can't, sorry.
Yeah, sorry,
okay.
I cannot.
No worries, sorry, okay, hang on, sorry, I didn't share. Okay, is that okay now?
Yes.
Great, sorry, I'm sorry, okay, apologies. Great, so I'm Ben Etheridge. I'm postgraduate director here in the economics department at the University of Essex. And I'm going to talk about studying at Essex, studying economics at Essex at the postgraduate level. Okay, so I'll briefly kind of sell Essex and why you should study here. Well, so the first point, actually, I'm going to say something that's not on this slide, which is we offer fantastically employable degrees. So in surveys of graduate outcomes, say, for example, the last one that was conducted just before the pandemic, over 80% of our students, our graduates, were in highly skilled jobs, professional services, management level, senior officials. And we have lots of resources dedicated towards getting students towards top jobs. And so we have very good employability training. At a more academic level, the reason why you should come to Essex, the reason why Essex is very good compared to kind of comparative universities, is we have very strong research-led teaching. And the reason why that's important is because when you get to advanced stages of your education, you don't want to be taught by just pure teachers. You want to be taught by dedicated teachers, and we are very dedicated, but who are also experts in what they're teaching. And lots of our faculty are at the forefront of world research in their areas of speciality. And so I've got at the top here, I say we're in the top 5 in the UK for research. According to the most recent survey in 2014, there's one coming out now where we'll almost certainly be in the same position. So you're taught by people who really know their subject very well, and that makes a big difference to what you learn from your studies. Final point I'll come back to later, we offer a very flexible set of programs. So very broad, you can study straight economics, or you can study kind of flavors of economics, which I'll talk about later. And you can mix and match and study lots of different modules that you might find interesting. Okay, so we have a very educationally rewarding program here at Essex. Okay, a bit about our programs in more detail. So we offer 3 different postgraduate routes. And I think the best way of thinking about this is what you want to get out. It's both where you're kind of coming from, but mainly what you want to get out of your degree. So our MA, Master of Arts, well, we encapsulate that by saying it delivers proficiency in using economics. So we think that the MA is designed for people who want to go into policy jobs without a real kind of, I mean, it could go into more spheres than that, but that's what I always have in mind. And lots of the students who are doing MAs, that's where they want to go to. So they want to go to policy jobs, maybe not using kind of technical economics, not using kind of such involved data methods, but want to have a kind of a good kind of intuitive understanding of economic arguments in terms of, for example, the way the macroeconomy works, and in kind of engaging with verbal arguments. So typically also that MA doesn't require quantitative training in economics at the undergraduate level. So students often come from broad kind of social science backgrounds, even more broadly, and they can learn kind of intuitive understanding of economics. Then we have our MSc, Master of Science, which delivers proficiency in applying economics. So there I have in mind somebody who wants to work in a more technical kind of consulting role, for example, maybe doing lots of quantitative work with data. Okay, and there, you know, students will learn kind of mathematical models, you know, quantitative methods with data, and that requires students to have done some quantitative work at the undergraduate level. So typically most students on the MSc would have done economics as an undergraduate, or at least a large component of economics. I realize that, you know, there's lots of joint degrees. Then finally, we have the MRes, Master of Research, which delivers proficiency in researching economics. Okay, so that's the most specialized, that's really tailored towards going on to do a PhD. So whereas the first two kind of, you know, the world is your oyster after that, you can kind of do any kind of jobs. The MRes, of course, you know, you still can go on to do, you know, various jobs you like, but it's really quite vocational. It's intended to be very specific. So it's intended for students who really want to do a PhD. Okay. And there, sorry, I should add, you know, in terms of the course, you know, students will kind of do the more mathematical side to a higher level, and there's more of an emphasis of research mindset, coming up with your own ideas, that kind of thing. Okay, so in more detail, the MA program, as I said, that delivers proficiency in using economics. So the key skills we like to develop are critical thinking. Okay, so, you know, students might, for an assessment, they might have to write a term paper, so like 1,500, 2,000 words, where they read literature, they critically assess different arguments, and then they write on economics topics. So I teach macroeconomics at the MA level, and, you know, I set students questions about, for example, quantitative easing, or about kind of inequality at the macro level, and they read recent papers and they write a 2,000-word article. At the end of the kind of keystone project for all our postgraduate programs is this dissertation, which you do over the summer. Okay, and students have to write a 10,000-word dissertation, again, which demonstrates critical thinking. So what I was just saying was a mid-term paper. I said 2,000 words for doing a macroeconomics module. Then in the summer, you'll do something of a similar style, but much longer, 10,000 words, where you engage with a topic of your choice, anything you're interested in, as long as it relates to economics, and you write in a kind of extended critical analysis based on literature and arguments that you've come up and seen. Okay. More detail about the MSc program. So as I said, this delivers proficiency in applying economics. Okay, and there the key skills are not only critical thinking, which is a key skill in all education and writing, but also quantitative methods. As I said, methods of data analysis. So really lots of jobs now, I mean, the boom industry is data science. So lots of our graduates want to kind of learn data methods and get jobs in data science or data analytics. With an orientation towards economics. So again, an assessment during the year might be doing some kind of a data project in software. Again, the summer dissertation, you do 10,000 word dissertation, and then the emphasis is on quantitative application. So it's expected that you'll probably investigate some data. So again, you'll take a question of what you're interested in. You'll critically assess with literature. You'll also find some data and do some data analysis of your own, some original data analysis. Okay, then our MRes program. So as I said, this delivers proficiency in research or tools for economics. So again, the key skills, it has very much a similar structure to the MA and MSc. You do modules in the autumn. You arrive typically in October, do some 4 modules in the autumn, 3 modules in the spring, and then you do your dissertation in the summer. And the key skills that are emphasized are critical thinking and quantitative methods, again, but at the PhD level. So a bit of a more trying to kind of move towards original ideas and investigating original ideas, and kind of getting used to all the failures that are involved in that, which I think is the key thing. So then with a 10,000 word dissertation in the summer, the idea is, the emphasis is on coming up with your own ideas and seeing if they work or not. And as we know, most ideas don't work, and that's something you have to get used to heading towards a PhD. Okay, and on the left-hand side, I just wanted to bring up, we have, in terms of research at Essex, probably our most famous alumnus, certainly in the kind of research sphere, is Chris Pissarides, who won the Nobel Prize for Economics in 2011. And so we're very proud of him. He's our kind of greatest Essex alumnus. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that we have different flavors of degree. And we have very flexible programs. And so I'll talk a bit more about that in detail now. So the MRes, that's the easy bit, that just comes in one flavor, that's economics. So that's if you want to study a PhD, you do MRes in economics, it gives you a core economics training you can then use for your PhD work. The MA comes in a few more flavors. So we have financial economics. You can do straight economics if you want to, but you can do financial economics, international economics, management economics, where you learn about some business strategy. I'll talk more about that in a bit. Or development, international development, or you can study economics with public policy, which is joint with the government department. Okay, so quite a lot of variety with our MA in economics. So for example, if you come from a political science background, you want to learn more economics, but you want to keep that kind of public policy emphasis, you might study the MA in economics with public policy. Okay, the MSc, that's when things get really broad and you can do so much. So again, we offer straight economics, but we also have behavioral economics. We have economics with data analytics. We have financial economics. We have financial econometrics. And I'll talk a bit more about that now. Okay, so at the MSc level, in terms of our flavors, okay, We offer joint degrees with business school, financial technology, political science, with psychology. You can study behavioral economics, which has lots of psychology components, computer science department as well, where else linked with other schools that I'm kind of even forgetting. And we offer 12 programs offered completely within departments. So really, please do look at the website. That we have lots of different interesting courses that may suit any different kind of interest in economics. And I should say a bit more on flexibility. This is probably not relevant to the Japanese market so much, Japanese students, but we do have some options to study January to January. So I said that our main year is October to October, but some of our courses you can even start in January and run through the calendar year. Okay, briefly on entry requirements. Okay, so I'm going to be speaking roughly here. It's best to look at the website for more details. But for our MA and MSc, we require the equivalent of, in the UK terms, a 2-2 at the undergraduate level. So please ask someone what is the equivalent in Japan. We have this international English language test score that you may know about. That's the kind of general English language requirement to get to UK universities. And our requirement is 6.0 on average. At the MRes level, entry requirements are a bit more strict, and we really prefer someone to have an MSc already. It's not a strict requirement, but it's kind of our usual students. But there you need the equivalent at the top grade at undergraduate level of first, and an IELTS of 6.5. Okay, so I just going into a bit more detail before I pause on, because I mentioned management economics earlier, and I wanted to bring out this distinction between studying economics, management economics, versus doing a business strategy course. Okay, so because this gives a bit of an idea about, you know, what economics focuses on. So I would say that economics is broader than business strategy. It's more rigorous in terms of being more mathematical and quantitative. So our ideas are kind of crystallized in terms of mathematical models. An economics training, as opposed to a business administration or business strategy training, is more transferable across countries and jobs. So economics concepts are kind of the same everywhere. So business strategy is kind of country specific. And economics is more strategy oriented. So we study things like optimal firm size, which markets firms should engage with, pricing strategy, that kind of thing. Whereas business is more operational in terms of, for example, inventory management or that kind of thing. Okay, so that's just giving you an idea of like management economics versus business. That's only one aspect of the economics we teach, but I thought that would be instructive. Okay, so that was just an overview of studying economics at Essex. Here are some contacts. You can always email me. I'm the postgraduate director, Ben Etheridge, or you can email our senior graduate administrator, Nick Bradley, at Essex, who happens to be on paternity leave at the moment. His wife has just had a baby, but he'll be back fairly soon and happy to answer emails as would any of his colleagues, any of our colleagues. Okay, so I'm going to take a pause now for a few minutes to ask if there's any questions. But I was also going to go into talking briefly about some economics kind of done by my colleagues to give you a flavor of economics at the postgraduate level, things you might get involved with, ideas you might engage with. I'll talk about how it relates to real economics you can do while at Essex, but I'll pause for a few minutes before giving that subject taster. Okay, so thank you very much. So I'll open up to questions for 60 seconds. If there's no questions, I'll I'll just carry on.
Thank you very much, Dr. Etheridge. 皆様、ここまでご清聴ありがとうございます。今から60秒ぐらい、1分間、質問のお時間を待ってくださるとのことで、ここまで何か質問がありましたら、ぜひお聞きください。経済学とビジネスの違いもよく皆様が持たれる質問なので、あとマネジメントだったり、そうですね、類似するコースの違いなども、もし気になることがあればお尋ねください。
Okay, I'll leave it 10 more seconds, 15 more seconds. Okay, I'll carry on with talking about some economics. Okay, so I'm going to talk about something called copy trading. And this is work by my colleague, Professor Simon Weidenholzer at Essex, along with his co-authors with long and complicated names that I'll try and pronounce, Apesteguia and Oshla. And it was published in a distinguished journal, Management Science, top journal a few years ago now, 2018. So I hope it's of interest. So what am I talking about? What is copy trading? Okay, well, maybe you've seen the brand names, and these are brand names in UK market, maybe in Japanese market, you have equivalent firms. I'm sure you do. So in the UK, we have these firms called like eToro, FX Copy, Tradio, where you can log in, join, and you can copy a role model. So you can not only invest, but you can see how other people are investing. And at the click of a button, you can copy exactly how they invest. So if you think Warren Buffett, who's the world's most famous investor, if he was on eToro and I joined eToro, I could do a click of a button, buy everything, obviously in much smaller amounts. I don't have Warren Buffett's money, but I could buy everything in the same proportions as Warren Buffett. And this is extremely popular with millions of accounts. Okay, so I'm sure you'd have seen something similar, even if those firm names are not familiar to you. Okay. So why do we research this? Okay. Well, I'm going to take you through a story. Well, so successful investors, at least in the short term, maybe not Warren Buffett, are often those who've been lucky. Okay, so in the short term, if you take 1,000 investors and you examine them over a month, okay, then the ones who have done the best in that at the end of that month will have been the ones who've been luckiest. In the short run, it's luck rather than skill that works out in trading. So it's the successful investors who often become role models, okay? And therefore, on average, the role models will be those who've been lucky. And how to be lucky with 1,000 people, the ones who are luckiest are the ones who've taken on excessive risk and happen to have hit the jackpot, okay? So, we can all think of examples. So for example, at the beginning of the pandemic, if you happen to own lots of shares in Zoom, then you'll have made a huge fortune. Doesn't necessarily mean that you should be the best role model for investing. It's just the case that you've been lucky. Okay. So I have, okay, great. So then the concern is, well, this system leads copiers to take on excessive risk. Okay, so if the role models are people who've been very lucky, and you get lucky by the way you can get the best returns in the short run is just by taking on huge bets and getting lucky. That means that everyone who copies you will do similar things, and the system as a whole will take on excessive risk. What do I mean by excessive? because that's let's be precise about this. Of course, we want people to take on risk. That's the idea of investing in the stock market. But excessive means more risk than investors would like without social comparisons. Okay, so we have to have some benchmark about what's the kind of right level of risk for people to take. And here we're concerned that people are taking more than that risk because they're engaging in some social comparisons. So this excessive risk taking can be very bad for a variety of reasons. Not only for the individual level, you might end up with lots of people who lose lots of money, and that in itself is a bad thing, but it can also lead to very unstable markets. Okay, so we want stable financial markets. If we have markets where we have big crashes, everyone tries to sell their assets at the same time, we can end up in very big problems, as we saw in the financial crisis now kind of 15 years ago. Okay, so what did these researchers do? So they essentially created one of these investment platforms, one of these copy trading investment platforms in the lab. And this is the point at which I mentioned lab work at Essex, which for those of you who've studied economics, you may not be totally aware of, but it's something we emphasize a lot at Essex. So we do a lot of research in a lab. So you get lab participants in, generally students. So as a student, you could be involved in lab studies. We present them with some economic situation and we see how they behave. Okay, and we get research out insights from this. So in this case, we're studying a copy trading in the lab, and investors, who were real students really, were compensated with real money for their investments. Okay, so that's also worth emphasizing about economics experiments, because economics is about real material outcomes. We need to do experiments with real money. So if you do lots of economics experiments and you do them well, or you know, depending on what well means, you can actually make quite a lot of money. Okay, that's worth bearing in mind. Okay, so we have students or participants come into the lab. They're presented with investment scenarios, and depending on how well their investments do, they're compensated with real money. So just like investing in the stock market. But here it's worth saying that the investments are synthetic. Okay, so if you go in the lab, it's not like you're investing in Apple and Google and Amazon. You're investing in, invented assets, and payoffs are given by random number generators. So it kind of mimics the stock market, but it's all done by a computer. And then people who happen to have done well, they're gonna get real money returns. Okay, so in this laboratory setting, there are 4 different assets, A, B, C, and D. Okay, and A is the safest, has the lowest return but the lowest risk. D is the most risky, it has the highest return but the highest risk. Okay, and so when laboratory participants, when investors were presented with these assets, it turned out around 45% of them invested in B, which is a moderate return, moderate risk asset. Okay, and then the computer spins. It turns out works out the returns, the random returns for all these assets, and people are paid off. Okay, so this is B was a kind of moderately safe investment. Then the investigators, the researchers, allowed people to observe each other and to copy. Okay, so now there's 100 investors in a room. They play a sequence of investment games. I see what other people are doing. I see, who's invested in D. I see who's invested in C and who's invested in A. And I can choose to, and over time, we keep doing some investments, and I can choose to copy people if I so wish. So with this, the second experiment, now we let investors see and copy each other. As I said, they make a series of investments, observing others' results over time. And the result of this is investors converge more and more to D. So let's see that now. So investment choices with copying, by the end, we see the huge number investing in D, and now, very few people are investing in B or C or A, and everyone's going to D. Okay. So first of all, I just want to think, before we look at takeaways, let's think why that's the case. Well, one reason why this happens is because when you look at these investment copying sites, okay, so what people do is, the website presents the best performing people, okay? So the best performing people will have been those who invested in D, because they've taken on lots of risk. Some of them will have paid off and they do well. And I see all the best performing people did D. But of course, if I was to look at the worst performing people, those will also have been people who invested in D. So some of these people who invested in the D type of asset would have lost lots of money. Okay, so if I happen to see the worst performing, I might avoid D. But because people only look at the best performing, it means they go towards D because they see lots of Ds there. So what's the takeaway? The takeaway is that copy trading leads to substantially riskier investments. And of course, the researchers did more here, and I'm not going to talk about all of this, but it turns out this results from copying. So at the click of a button, I can copy somebody else, their investments, but also even just observing without directly copying. So just seeing how other people are doing, and then I make my choices myself rather than clicking a button and copying, that will lead people to take on, substantially riskier investments. A really important takeaway is that the investors in the lab are randomly drawn. I mean, these are typically kind of economics students, but they should be, they're not regular market participants. Whereas we probably think that real investors are people who really like taking on risk, and so they're likely to adopt even more risk. So that's the worrying thing, the worrying implication for the real world. Thank you. So I'm Ben Etheridge. There's my email address again. So I now look forward to taking on some questions, or we're going to have a presentation from Edmundo. And yeah, please fire away with questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Essex. 皆様何かご質問ありましたら、ぜひお聞きください。Edmundo, would you like to?
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
I'm going to share my screen, and if you please let me know if you can see it now. Yes?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So we're the University of Essex, and the University of Essex was founded in 1964. We have 3 faculties and 19 academic departments, and we are based in 3 towns in the county of Essex in England. We have more than 70,000 students, of which more than 40% come from outside the UK, which make us one of the most international universities, not only in the UK, but in the world. These students come from more than 140 different countries, and also our member staff come from many different countries. We do have also agreements with many partners around the world. In Japan, we have academic partners. We are academic partners with University of Tokyo, Waseda University, Kobe University, and others. Right. So where are we? Our main campus is in the town of Colchester, which is to the east of London. You can see that in the map. And very close to central London by train. Our second campus is based in Southend by the sea, which you can see here in the map, and is a seaside town, even closer to London than Colchester. And our third location is in Loughton, which you can see there. Loughton is in the Greater London area and is the home of our East 15 Acting School. Just quickly, I mentioned we have 3 faculties. These are the 3 faculties, and these are the 19 academic departments. As we have all these academic departments, we can offer many courses in these areas. Right, if you're interested in a bachelor degree, I would recommend you to download the undergraduate prospectus from this web page. The address is here at the bottom of the slide. In this prospectus, you will find all the information you need about Essex. Very quickly, the entry requirements for bachelor degrees are these. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because our colleagues from SI UK, they can give you the information. I just want to mention that if you graduated from a local, or you're going to graduate from a local high school, I mean the local curriculum, Japanese curriculum, you will need to study a foundation course before starting the degree at Essex. And again, our colleagues from SI UK, they can tell you all about this. If you're planning to do a master's or a PhD with us, I would recommend you to download the international prospectus from this web page here. Again, it will have all the information you need. And very quickly, these are the entry requirements for a master's degree. And the tuition fees, okay? For undergraduate courses, the tuition fees have a range of £70,000 to £21,000. For the masters, the range is from £60,000 to £21,000, with the MBA costs being £23,000. For PhDs, the range is £60,000 to £19,000. To give you an idea how much you need for a year with the tuition fees and the cost of living, you can see that for undergraduates, the average cost of living per year is £12,500, and for masters, under £40,500. If you add this to the fees, you will have a very clear idea of what you need to have to spend to come to Essex for a year. The detailed information about the cost of living is in this web page here. And the information about fees and scholarships is in this web page here. Right, I'm going to show you a little bit of our 3 campuses. This is our main campus in Colchester. I'm going to point out the accommodation residences and some of the places that you might, if you come, you might spend a lot of time in. So like the library, the Student Center and Services Hub. And the accommodation, we have 6 towers of flats, the houses, South Courts, the Copse, the Meadows, and not in the picture, the Keys. So plenty of accommodation available for our students. And the accommodation is guaranteed for the duration of your course, okay? As long as you apply by the deadline. You have an option of having your own bathroom or to share bathroom. Most of our rooms are for one person, but we have some double rooms available as well. In the rent, we include the internet and cleaning, okay? To give you an idea, the cost of the accommodation ranges from £105 to £270 per week. If you are a master's student, you have to be here for 50 weeks. And if you're an undergraduate student, you spend 39 weeks with us. So that will give you an idea how much you have to pay for accommodation per year. In Colchester, we have these 6 options for student accommodation. In this webpage, the address is at the bottom of the slide. You can find the details of these different options. Some of these residences are only for undergraduates, like the South course and the COPs. Definitely, they are only for undergraduates, and the houses as well. The others they are for both kind of students. Right. This is Colchester. The official name is Colchester Town, and it's a small place, but in my opinion, very nice. And you live here quite comfortably. It's a very historic place. Actually, it was the first town in the UK. Okay, and this is some of the historical buildings and more buildings in town. So it's a nice place. Right, with plenty of things to do. As an example, these three places organize many events, not only art exhibitions, but many things like farmers markets, craft fairs, there's a cinema on the first site, etc., etc. The second campus, Southend, was founded only in 2007. Is small. We have only courses in business, entrepreneurship, nursing, and acting. As I said before, it's very close to London, less than an hour by train, and it's also Southend has a local airport where you can fly to many cities in Europe. Right, in this map, I'll show you the buildings of our Southend campus. The Gateway building, which is here in this picture, is where all the classrooms and academic offices, administrative offices are. Then we have the library in what is known as the Forum, and accommodation in University Square. The Forum is the local library that we share with the council. And in here, you will find our learning hub, where you can get all these services. Okay. This is the accommodation in Southend, 560 student rooms, quite colorful and very nicely located in town. So, you know, for accommodation, 2 blocks away from the classroom and a couple of blocks from the high street. Some pictures of Southend. It's a very typical British seaside city. And the third campus, Loughton. Loughton is, as I said, the home of our acting school, one of the biggest and very specialist theatre schools in the UK, with more than 900 students. And if you want to know more about the school and our courses in acting, please visit this webpage here. This is some pictures of Loughton. Actually, Loughton is at the end, is the last stop of the Central Line in the metro. So you can take the tube to Central London. It will take you 20 minutes or so. A little bit of student life. Of course, not everything is studying. And, you know, student life, the student union, they organize many activities like these 4 examples here. And they run the student clubs, sport clubs, and societies, which you have a big number of options. You know, these are just examples of the current sport clubs and student societies. And the information is in this website here. Yes, the student societies, you know, is I think it is a very important part of student life, because you will get to know many people, make friends, and of course have fun. These are some examples of the things and societies that we have currently. If you like sports, yes, we have teams you can join, representative teams or just sport clubs. We have this sport arena, which is also the place where the academics from the sport science school are. We have a gym. We have all many courts, squash, badminton, basketball, etc. We have a climbing wall and many pitches, outdoor pitches for football, cricket, etc. And if you are good at sports, you can get a scholarship from us. Okay, so then we offer, this is important, a lot of academic support, all right? So each academic department will assign you a personal tutor, which is an academic, and a peer mentor, which is another student. And our learning success team, they will help you with any learning and study skills issues you might have, like with mathematics, digital skills, or in English language skills. We offer free English language skills for people who need them. Right. In the Student Service Hub, you can access all these services. Okay, so for example, careers and skill, the careers and skill team is based there. They can help you with employability topics. If you have any issues or questions about fees and funding, the finance team is based there, and all the other teams like graduation and documentation teams. Right, if you have questions about the university in general or how to apply, you can ask me now, or you can email me later to this email address. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Edmundo. Is the cat the university's pet?
Indeed. Cute. Indeed, I think he's still alive. He's called Pebbles or Pebbles. And there's a whole, he has his website in here. So you can learn why he's here. Website. Yes. I haven't seen him because I haven't been to the university, but I think he's still around.
Good to hear.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you very much, Dr. Etheridge, for answering all the questions already. Sorry, I'm going to switch to Japanese. ご質問ありがとうございます。まず、コピートレーディングに関して新しいコンセプトなのか、昔からあったのか、違う専門の方からご質問いただきました。で先生のご回答としては、そうですね。最近増えていて、そうですね、10年から15年の間でかなり増えていて、今もポピュラーになり続けているということです。で、2つ目のご質問が、もし将来起業されたいということで、その場合はエコノミクス、経済学とビジネススタディーズであれば、どちらの方がおすすめかというご質問でした。先生の答えとしては、そうですね、すべてのバックグラウンドを聞かないと答えにくい質問になりますけれども、どちらかというと、経済学をすべての方にお勧めするということです。Dr. Etheridge, could you please explain more on why would you recommend everyone to have training in economics, please?
Oh, that's well, I think that's a very broad question. I mean, I thought compared to business, which I think was brought up, I mean, I think, economics is a much broader training. And I guess the person who asked the question was specifically interested in starting their own business, in which case, obviously a business training does, has some merits. But economics is a fantastically broad training with key skills that are relevant in so many areas, right? Critical thinking, quantitative work, knowing about really important social and economic policy problems around the world. An understanding of key economic concepts is really important in business, knowing about price elasticities, that kind of thing. So I think it's much broader, it leads to many more things. And lots of the practical skills that supposedly you're taught in a business degree, you can pick those up much quickly, very quickly through experience. whereas those broader economic concepts really require some university training to master.
Thank you very much. はい、今、ご回答いただきました。そうですね。経済学をよりお勧めする理由としては、ビジネスももちろんいいですけれども、経済学の方がより広く、例えば、定量的な分析の内容も学びますし、あと政策関連のそのポリシー分析などにも役立ったりします。あと、ビジネスであれば、より早く身につけやすい内容を勉強していくので、例えば皆様が会社などに入られた後でも、そうですね、入られた後に学んでも良いかもしれないというようなご回答をいただきました。次に今のご質問いただいた方から、そうですね、社会学を学部の時に専攻したけれども、少し定量的な授業も取っていました。大学院レベルでの経済学のコースにアプライしても要件を満たすことはできるのかどうか、仕事自体は直接経済学と関係ないけれども、大学院修了した後に少しキャリアを変更されたいということですね。で、先生からのご回答としては、ご質問ありがとうございます。そうですね。一般的に言えば、社会学のバックグラウンドであれば、MA の、より分析重視であったり、マスター・オブ・アーツ、定量的な内容が少し少なめのマスターの方が適しています。ただ、もし十分なその定量的なトレーニングを受けているようであれば、MSc への道も可能ということですね。で、まずはアプライしてみて、それでアドミッションズチームが判断してくれるので、とりあえず出願自体は無料でできますので、ぜひチャレンジしてみていただければと思います。SIUK で有料でも無料でも出願をサポートしておりますので、お気軽にご質問ください。Sorry, Dr. Esseridge, could you give more details on how much quantitative training students would normally be required before they progress to Masters in Economics?
Yeah, so that's a difficult question. That requires, our admissions experts look at, case by case, and we'll look at people's individual applications. So it's probably, broadly, we're looking at some, we're looking at evidence of quantitative backgrounds. So having done an econometrics course would be good. Knowing some mathematics, having a bit of calculus. But really, at that level, actually, admissions officers are very highly skilled at knowing the background of individual students. So it's probably best not for me to kind of give specific advice there. The key points are MA doesn't really require any quantitative background. MSc does require some quantitative background. If you really want an MSc and you think you have enough, then please apply, and our admissions officers will advise.
Thank you. Would you say that MSc degree is more employable in terms of having more training in quantitative studies?
I wouldn't say totally more employable across the board, but it leads to some jobs that you can't get with an MA, I guess. So MA is very employable as well. But MSc and our outcomes are good from the MA. The MSc, some specific jobs in, data science or whatever, that's, what an MSc would lead towards. So as I said, MA leads towards more policy jobs. MSc would lead towards more kind of technical jobs, data science being an example.
Thank you. 今、MA と MSc のコースで、そうですね、ディグリーのタイトルである程度どれぐらい定量的な勉強が必要かが、少し見分けがつくというご説明がありまして、 で、MSc の方がその雇用率としては高くなるのかというご質問をしたところ、これに関しては、MSc の方がよりテクニカルで、例えばデータサイエンスだったり、そちらの方に進む方は、もちろん MSc になるんですが、MA でしかつながらないキャリアもあるということです。例えば、政策分析など、やはりポリシー系になってくると MA のコースがよりダイレクトにつながるパスウェイになってきますね。Thank you again, Dr. Etheridge and Edmundo. I think you have answered all questions today. Is there anything you want to share or add at the end of this webinar?
Not me.
I'm just finishing off with answering one question, so I'll if you give me 10 seconds, then I'll say goodbye to everyone if that's okay.
Oh yes, sure. Oh, sorry, I overlooked this.
Yeah, so that's okay, it's okay.
ご質問ありがとうございます。Thank you for the presentation. そうですね、これもいいご質問ですね。経済学と、あと、パブリックポリシーとソーシャルポリシーを勉強する。
Yeah, I'm finishing answering now. So, yeah, I'll say thanks for attending and good to interact with everyone. And I hope to see you next year in Essex.
Thank you very much. Thank you. 最後にご質問ですけれども、そうですね、経済学とソーシャルポリシー、あとパブリックポリシーの違いについてお聞きいただきました。でご質問者様は、政策のキャリアにご興味を持っていて、でその場合は、そうですね、経済学を学ぶのはどうかという感じですね。で、ベン先生からのご回答は、When studying economics, you learn central economics concepts and frameworks that you wouldn't learn in other subjects. そうですね、結構経済学だとファンダメンタルな他の事象の根本となるようなコンセプトを学ぶ機会がありますと。でこれを他の分野にアプライすることも可能なので、もちろんソーシャルポリシー、社会政策の問題にも適用できます。例えば、気候変動やあと移民問題などですね。ですので、とてもパワフルなアプローチになります。とてもいいご質問をありがとうございました。それでは、はい。Thank you for answering my question. ありがとうございます。では今日は皆様貴重なお時間いただき、ご参加いただきどうもありがとうございました。また実際に Essex にご出願される場合は、SIUK で出願のサポートを行っておりますので、お気軽にご連絡ください。先ほどEtheridge先生からも来年会いましょうというお言葉をいただきました。では今日はどうもありがとうございました。Thank you very much again, Dr. Etheridge and Edmundo. Very lovely to have you today. Have a nice afternoon. Bye.
Bye. See you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.